Greetings and welcome to Conversation with Tony Mobley. On Conversation with Tony Mobley today, I have an artist, an illustrator, a storyteller, TeMika Grooms. Thank you, TeMika, so much for being here. Today is October 22nd, 2025. This is episode 40 of 2025. We are near 200 episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. This conversation uses the TV broadcast software Mimo Live, and we also use Zoom. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by Clylock Lopez Waterman, and our current team is Laura Thompson, Zachary Sorensen, and Mickey McAture. Thank you, sir, and thank you, team, so much. Conversation with Tony Mobley has an interactive chat called Mukana, and it's courtesy of Alex Lindsay in 090. It is an opportunity for you to ask your questions. Those questions can be voted up and down. Yes, you can ask your questions, and the community has the opportunity to vote your question up or down. If you choose not to use that, you can ask your question in the YouTube chat, and we will bring it over, and you will have your questions answered. We want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Conversation with Tony Mobley can be seen at conversationwithTonyMobley.com as well as on YouTube. And now we're going to get started right away with our conversation. Welcome, Miss TeMika Grooms, to Conversation with Tony Mobley. Excited to have you on today, and welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and talk with you and to be on your show. So thank you for inviting me to be here.
You are very welcome. We're going to get started with the very first question. The very first question is, who is TeMika Grooms?
Oh, that's such a big question. Who is TeMika Grooms? Sometimes I ask myself that every day. But I would say that I am an artist first and foremost. I feel like that's what I've always been since a young child. Um, but I'm also an engineer by trade. I'm a designer. I am a person who does lots of creative things, including drawing, painting. I'm learning how to sculpt. I'm learning more and more about public art. Um, I'm a creative person, and I try to infuse that into everything that I do. Um, I try to put that in the art that I make, but I also put it into my children, the food that I cook, the garden that I have, everything that I touch, I try to be creative with it. And so I think that's how I would describe myself is creative. And yeah, that shows up in every place that I show up. So yeah.
What was your first story that you illustrated?
Ooh. Wow. So I actually have some, books that I did when I was a young child. Lots of kids draw things when they're in elementary school, especially if you have a teacher or a parent that supports them in doing that. But I have documentation, and I had a teacher, several teachers actually, but I had a teacher in the fifth grade that taught us how to create books and put them together in bound books. And so we had actually had to go through the process of writing the stories. Mine actually had a lot of poetry in it, but there was also prose and stories in it. So we had to type it up. So that tells you how old I am. But we actually had to use a typewriter and learn how to publish in that way. So it was a one-off thing, but we had to write the stories, we had to create the pages, we had to illustrate, we had to actually do the book binding as well. So we used old wallpaper and cardboard to do that. So she taught us about the process of publishing a book and showed us that we could actually do that too. Now, of course, I've done other things at younger grades where teachers would have you practice writing, like your actual handwriting. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but we had to actually practice our handwriting and write stories and do illustrations. And the teacher would just use, string or staples or something to put it together. But I feel like that was my early introduction to storytelling and to creating books. So early in elementary school, I think that my teachers saw that there was potential and there was talent there. And even before that, with my mother being a teacher at that time too, I think she saw it and she encouraged me to be creative in different kinds of ways. Um, and I can talk more about that, but I feel like I answered that question. There's a lot more I want to tell you about my mother specifically. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the first professional illustration that you did.
Hmm. So in 2013, around that time, I did a art business training, art entrepreneurship training with Dan Flores. And his wife, Aisha Flores, and there was I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on my on my names right now, but there's a lawyer here locally in Georgia that helped us go through the process of learning about how to be an art entrepreneur. And it was in that program that I, you know, pinpointed that I actually wanted to do children's books as my craft and a part of my business. And so after going through that program, my first book project that I did professionally was with a local artist that reached out to me here. I don't know if she saw my work online or if she found me through someone else, but Keisha Williams was the first person that I published the book after I went through that program. And now that I'm thinking about it, I actually have done something before then, but we'll say that she's my first one. um,
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
I do lots of things along the way, and I've forgotten about some of them, but I think that that was the first one that I would say that I was really proud of because I liked the way it turned out. Keisha's did a really good job at promoting the book and getting it out there into the world, into libraries, into the hands of kids. So yeah, that was one that I was really proud of, and I felt like I was
And
stood the process more.
yeah, I think it's a very small world. We had Dan on, I want to say the first Wednesday in September.
Mhm.
And Dan and I have had several different conversations and a lot of interaction. And I didn't have any idea about the things that his wife was involved in until this very last conversation. And I mentioned to him that we needed to get her on as well on conversations. And, um, and so when you mentioned her, that brought up, that refreshed all of that for me, that it's important to get her back on there. And um, we have quite a few people in common. I know we have Dan in common and Liberty, and there was somebody else that we had as a mutual friend. I can't think who it is right now. But
Atlanta's a small place.
Atlanta is Atlanta is a small place, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm looking forward to. And so you telling me that Alicia was is it Alicia or say
Aisha,
it's
Aisha
Aisha?
Flores. Uh-huh.
She was the promoter of that first book.
Oh, I'm sorry. Keisha Williams was the author of the
Oh,
first book that I did after coming through that program, and I like to say that one just because I felt like I was more confident at going through the process of putting a book together, understanding like where the pages go, how to design the book. Even though I still had a lot more to learn, but I felt like that book was one that kind of started me on the path of all the other ones that followed it. And Keisha's book was self-published, and I did a few more self-published book projects after that, and eventually moved into traditional publishing with publishing houses. But I feel like that book was a really good start for me. So I like to say that that was the first one that I did. There were others that I actually created too. I can tell you more about that because there's some interesting story behind one of them.
well, one of the things I want to know is how does the engineer TeMika Grooms and the artist TeMika Grooms integrate? How do they work together?
Oh, yeah. So right and left brain is a real thing. I think I've always had I think I've always had a balance between the two. When I went to engineering school, they actually told us that that we had to choose a path. What I wanted to do was architecture, and I wanted to mix it with engineering. And there is a such thing as architectural engineering, but it's not common. And so I'm saying all this to say that my brain has always been very analytical on one side and very creative on the other. I've never been the type of person where I'm always just wanted to do art. Um, and so your question was, how do I bring the two together?
Yes.
Yeah, so gosh, how do I bring the two? It's just who I am, Tony. The thing is that like I've learned some skills along the way about how to do both of them better, and I think I integrate both the skills that I use and that I've learned into both of those things. So when I was doing engineering full time, I was a civil engineer. Um, I brought my creative thinking to that and problem solving in the designs that I did, even though I was using a lot of the analytical skills. And even now, I'm working as a designer for the company that I work for, but I'm bringing some of those engineering skills, project management, um, the way that I manage people also. I'm bringing all of those skills that I learned as an engineer, some of the technical skills as well, some of the geometry and the math. I'm bringing those things into the illustrations, into the design. And so again, like for me, it's right brain, left brain, but it's a part of who I am. And so it's not really a separate thing where I get to turn one off or turn on the other. It's like I'm always thinking about that process when I'm creating something. Does that make sense?
It does. And it gives me a follow up question. So, do you think that it gives you an advantage to be able to utilize both of those sides of your brain at the same time? You know, it's 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 to me the idea of being creative as you are, and
Mhm.
then at the same time um, being the practical, logical engineer.
Mhm.
It To me it seems like it would give you an advantage in terms of in certain workplaces over someone who's just primarily just an engineer. They don't have the to be able to draw on that creative side.
Mhm.
And so I was just wondering if you feel like it gives you an advantage.
So I graduated from Georgia Tech many moons ago. And when I was in school there, I felt like it was a disadvantage at that time because I wasn't feeling the support from the community that was there at the time because it was pushing us into one or the other. Things have changed a lot in 30 years. So, like now, Georgia Tech and a lot of the other technical skills, they're supporting students who want to be creative, who want to explore those creative sides of themselves, but also get the degree in whatever they're getting the degree in. So to answer your question, I feel like yes, it is an advantage because a lot of artists, unfortunately, don't necessarily know how to manage projects or money or finances or how to present themselves in a professional way, especially starting out. A lot of things you can learn, but if it's not something that you're taught or if you have this perception of yourself as I'm an artist and I don't have to do those things and you don't learn them, then I feel like it sets you at being at a disadvantage. So yes, absolutely. I feel like it can be an advantage. And then sometimes, to be honest, I feel like it's a hindrance to have both. Um, because I am very structured in my thinking and analytical, sometimes I feel like that can make me close off just a little bit, where maybe if I was just creative, I would let myself be a whole lot more free and not have to be professional. And you understand what I'm saying? Not have to
Yeah,
fit that mold as an engineer. So it has its drawbacks sometimes too, because I look at some of my more creative friends who kind of just let themselves be free in that way. And they have other skills that suit them very well. I'm thinking specifically of my friend Sachi. She can talk to anybody about anything. And that's a skill that she has. So we all have different skills. We have different things that are special about us that we bring into the world. Um, where it might be beneficial for me to have those management skills and people skills to get people moving in one direction. Sachi might have a skill of talking to people and relating to them in a heart level. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
all have something that we can bring to the table.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's talk about the art. Let's talk about the books.
Mhm.
So you have some titles that you want to show us. I can go to the website, but I want you to show us those books that you have on hand there.
Oh gosh. So I've been busy. Tony, I actually was on a show with you and Liberty. I don't know if you remember a few years ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
And,
absolutely.
and I think I was just starting out and getting busy. And in that time, I think I've probably done 6 books, maybe 7, but definitely 6. Um, and these aren't even all of them. These are just the ones that are out right now. And I'll just show them really quickly. One of them that came out this year was with Senator Raphael Warnock, and it's Leo's Lunchbox. And that's his second book that we've done together. And I won't tell you about it. I'm just going to run through them really quickly. There's
Okay.
Nadia Hone, she has a book called Getting Us to Grandmas. Um, Warnock's first book that came out in 2023 is Put Your Shoes On and Get Ready. A Century for Caroline came out. It's by Acacia Langley. That came out in June. And then most recently, A Flea for Justice is Marion Wright Edelman Stands Up for Change is by Valerie Bowling. And that came out in this October. So
You
it's been,
you you, you don't have to rush. You can hold them up a little bit
oh,
longer
okay.
so the audience get a chance to
Well,
see them.
I'll talk about them. I know I'm just rushing through. But yeah, it's been a busy time. It's been a very busy time. So I'm glad to be able to talk to you about them today.
So show us one more time.
Okay, all right. So I'll go a little slower. So Raphael Warnock's Senator Raphael Warnock's first book is Put Your Shoes On and Get Ready. And it's an autobiographical story about his life, how his father inspired him to take the path that he took in his, or is taking in his life as the senator, first Black senator of Georgia. And he is also the pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church. So it's a really great book. It's inspirational. And yeah, this is the first one that we did together in 2023. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you want to hear about the other ones?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then his second book is Leo's Lunchbox. And it's a part of a series, and we're all in this together. And so Leo's Lunchbox is about a boy who has some challenges with food insecurity. And I know that that's not a thing that's uncommon these days, unfortunately, where there's children that are going to school that don't have proper food to eat. And so this book is kind of a magical story about a lunchbox that the boy receives and how he makes change in the world. So in his small microcosm of the world.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And this one came out in 2024. This is Getting Us the Grandmas. It's by Nadia El Hone. She's an author in Canada, and it's actually set in the 1980s, early 1980s. Nadia and I created this book with the idea of like thinking about all the things that we saw back in the 80s. And just by the color of this book, it kind of tells you, that this is set in that time frame, but she also has an atlas in her hand. So it's not about old technology. It's about this trip that a little girl takes from Canada to the Bronx with her family, and it's a road trip, and they're trying to get there in time for a cousin's wedding, and they run into some obstacles, and the little girl actually helps her father navigate. And so she's using old technology, and there's some references inside of the book I don't know if you recognize this type of suitcase,
Mm-hmm.
old school suitcase.
Oh yeah.
There's also like Walkman. A lot of your viewers might remember like the Walkman and the Battleship. You might not be able to see this, but there's little elements that kind of make you think about the 1980s and things that we used back then, and that children wouldn't know anything about now at this time. But it opens up a conversation where you can actually talk to your parents about the things that they used back when they were children. And I also have A Century for Caroline by Kezia Langley. And it's about a woman who is having her 100th birthday, and her great granddaughter is going to see her. And so she has some wisdom to impart on to the little girl to teach her how to get to be 100 years old. And that's what the book is about.
That's
And then,
fantastic.
yeah, and then lastly is A Flea for Justice, which is about Marion Wright Edelman. And it's about her life. She's still a living person. She's a civil rights activist, and she's done a lot of good work in this world. And I'm really happy that I got a chance to be a part of this book. I learned a lot about Marion Wright Edelman by actually doing this project. I wasn't aware of her at the time, but I learned through the research, and was able to get her likeness in the pages of this book. So just so you can see what she looks like at the end. It takes you from the beginning of her life to the end. And so I'm really trying
Okay.
to get some realistic rendering of her. So it's a really good book. It's a biography, it's nonfiction, and I hope everybody checks these books out.
Fantastic. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more detail.
Okay.
We're gonna show the actual books and the places where you can get them from.
Okay.
There is a comment before we go any further, and I just share with you. It's from Liberty White,
Okay.
and she says, TeMika. I think she has probably 7 A's at the end. So our
Hi,
friend Liberty
Liberty.
is watching. Hello, Liberty. Fun fact from Liberty White: Tamika did some work on our Chosen Media Kids logo,
Mhm.
and there's a heart after it.
Yeah, yeah. She was a pleasure to work with, and trying to get the product that she needed was a really good lesson for me, and how to be a good designer, and learning what my client needs. So this thing that I've been learning over the past few years, transitioning from engineering into design, has been a learning process for me, and I'm really happy that I kind of had the support of the community to kind of go through that learning process. So it was great to work with Liberty.
Okay, we have another question. How do you how do you share your own stories and illustrating for others? How do you do that? How do you navigate that?
How do I balance it?
Yes, you're
Okay.
sharing your own stories
Uh-huh.
and the stories of others.
Okay. So, right now, because I work with traditional publishers, I'm often doing illustrating the stories that other people, well, that the publishers are bringing to me, and I work with an agent to be able to do that work. Um, that being said, a lot of my writing has taken a back seat at this time because I've been doing so many books back to back. Like this whole stack of books has been done in the past 2 years. And I have some stories that are sitting there waiting for me. Whenever I'm, walking, specifically walking, I get ideas for stories. But I might be doing any other mundane thing. And so I'll make a note in my phone about these stories and prompts that I want to come back to when I actually have time. But so the writing right now has taken a backseat to all the illustrating, but they really do go hand in hand. So I'm glad that I actually have both skills. the illustration's a bit stronger, but I see stories visually, and that's actually a really great place to start. Um, so that, and I have a framework, I have a guide that's going to help me, put the words when it's time. So,
I want to ask you about diversity and storytelling for children. What are your thoughts about that?
oh, it's there have been a lot of changes and improvements that the publishing industry has made since the initiative to have more diverse stories and more diverse creators, more diverse publishers who are working in the industry, be a part of the storytelling process. Um, it's improved a lot, and I feel like I've been a part of that improvement as well. The opportunities that I've been able to take advantage of. I think it has a long way to go. It's really important for all children, all people, because children's books are not just for children; they're for the adults who are reading them too. Um, Even though they might be being read to a child, but they're important for everybody who's reading them. And so anybody that's engaging with a book in any way, whether it's you're reading the words or you're reading the pictures, you want to see yourself represented in those stories. Or you might want to learn more about someone who you don't know about. Um, it's an opportunity for you to learn about yourself, learn about others, and just be open, more open to the world, because it's not just your perspective that you need to see. You need to see the whole world as a whole place that you don't have to be afraid to learn about. So it's really important that we're able to do this type of work, and that children are able to read the work that we create. And unfortunately, with the things that are going on in this world, that a lot of times kids aren't getting an opportunity to read the books that they deserve to read, actually.
Yeah. Is there? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Mhm.
can you talk a little bit about the importance of it? Because as you say, in the times in which we're living in, there seems to be an effort to remove diversity and almost act as if the word diversity is a bad word. And I wanted to know if you wanted to share any more of your thoughts on
Hmm. Um, hmm. I have thoughts.
that.
Uh,
If you don't want to share them in this form, that's fine too.
the,
Um,
the importance of diversity. It,
yes.
okay. Um, if imagine if you lived in a world that there was only Tonys, and everybody in the world looked like you, thought like you, dressed like you. Um, there's an issue with that in my mind, because you
Mm-hmm.
don't get to see. It's egotistical in my thoughts. It's very self-centered. Um, it's not the way that any human should be, because we are all different, and there's beauty in that difference. And to ignore that is to pretend that we're all the same and we should be the same, which is not the case. It's trying to me, it's trying to shape the world into what you think it should be, and the world is not like that. We're not living in a world full of Tonys. We're living in a world with TeMikas and Tonys and anybody else that you want to name. And everybody has a right to be here. Everybody has a right to be heard. Everybody has a right to be seen, to be valued. And if we don't give people the opportunity to actually do that, then what are we saying about this world that we live in? That we don't value it, that we don't want it to be in the reality that it is, that those people who aren't like us don't need to be here, they should not exist. Like, what are we really saying? And I don't think that that is how we should approach the world. I don't think it's living in reality. And so we need to live in reality, and let what we create reflect that too.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I want to say we have another question, not a question, we have a comment from Victor Montrose. Is that right? Is that somebody you know?
I don't know, Victor. I don't think.
Uh,
Maybe.
let me make sure I'm looking at this. I think it's Victor Montrose.
Okay.
And he says, TeMika has skills.
Well, thank you, Victor. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Victor, for your comment. And I also want to say, please, audience, this is a great opportunity for you to ask TeMika questions. Please, please. The hour is getting long, and we want to take advantage of Tamika here. We have some things that we're going to do. So if you want to get your questions in, you want to hurry up and get your questions in, we're going to talk about her website, and we're going to talk about some of the books where you can get the books and the prices for some of those books. Um, we have a question from Liberty. I was going to ask if Tamika could expand on the fact that the kids don't get to read the kinds of books that they deserve.
Mhm. Yeah. You all may be aware that there's a really strong book banning initiative that's going on in the United States. I don't know how broad your audience is, but in the United States, there's really trying to stop children from being able to have access to books that don't meet a certain criteria for certain parents. Now, there is a process that if a book is not suitable, that parents have to go through a specific process with libraries to have it evaluated. But there, barring all of that, um, there's a whole initiative that's out there that's trying to stop children from having access to books. And some of those books might deal with gender, it might have to deal with sexuality, it might have to even deal with the color of your skin, how you're represented in any number of ways. And so there's a select few parents who are making the decisions about what books are suitable for all children in the school or in the school system or in a county or a state. And eventually, maybe their initiative is for the whole country. But there's a small select few parents that are trying to make this decision for everyone. And that's not how the world is supposed to be. Um, just because if I were a parent that said my child can't read that book, that doesn't mean that another parent's child shouldn't read a book that they could have access to. So it's about giving people the freedom to read and the freedom to choose what their children are able to read. And just because you don't want your child to read something doesn't mean that other children shouldn't be able to read it or it shouldn't be able to be taught in schools. That's my opinion, and that's what I'm sticking to. But yeah, that's part of what some of the debate is.
Thank you, Liberty White, and thank you, Tamika, for your answers to that question.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk about the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, SCBWI is how we shorten it. Some people say Squeevy or any other names, but SCBWI is an organization of children's book creators, writers, illustrators, and translators across the globe who are, they're trying to learn about how to create children's books. But it's not just people who are starting out. There's also very well-known names. It also includes publishing, people who are in the industry, publishers, agents, editors, any number of people who support children's books who are also a part of the organization. It is primarily people who are starting out, but it includes the wide range of people who are creating children's books. And so why I'm saying that is super important because if you're in a community where there's just newbies and that's all you're learning from, then then everybody's kind of at the
You
same.
need the wisdom,
Yeah, you need
wisdom sometime.
you need the wisdom, you need the community of the people who actually create the books, um, to kind of teach the process, to teach and the guide and to mentor and to do all the things that help to to raise an illustrator or a writer up, but to just give them the support that they need. And so it's a global community of creators for children's books at all levels, and we support each other. We support each other through volunteering, through education, and just making sure that the word gets out there.
About how many members?
It's around 20,000 members or so, somewhere around that, and it's a
And it's worldwide.
worldwide, except for Antarctica. Antarctica, I think. I don't think there's anyone there. So
Just the penguins.
yeah, just the penguins. Yeah, but it's a great organization, and I started out volunteering with them. I think it was around 2014 or so. Can you hear me? Okay.
No, that
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
to you.
Okay. Okay. So I started volunteering with them around 2014 and came on staff around 2022, I believe it was. So right now I work as the design and illustration manager for the organization. So I'm doing a lot of the graphics and sometimes speaking and helping with panels that they have for the different conferences. But I work with a lot of the graphic things that are going on with the organization.
And you are also an host.
And I host a monthly talk with illustrators. And so we have a featured illustrator program where we select an illustrator each month to spotlight the work that they're doing in the children's illustration market. And so the committee that I'm a part of, we select an artist based on their application, the artwork that they've already done. Maybe they have books, sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. So the experience level is wide, but really in those conversations, I'm trying to learn more about who they are as an artist, what inspires them, how they create their work. Their artist journey is usually what I dive into, and I enjoy the conversations. So yeah.
We have another question from Liberty White.
Hmm.
How does TeMika keep herself sharp as this creative landscape shifts?
Sharp. Hmm. Um, Sharp I'm gonna guess and say that that question might be in terms of the technology shifts. Is that a good direction to go?
I think so. I think so.
Okay. Okay.
Liberty will let us know if it's not.
Okay. Okay. So let me start with this. So I started out in traditional media, and I didn't go to art school. I learned how to create art, we'll call it fine art, from a really good art teacher that I had in high school that trained me in the studio art way. So I learned about drawing, painting, sculpting, photography, all of those things. She really gave me a good foundation, even though I decided to do engineering. Um, but of course, as time goes on, technologies change, and I also picked up design skills using the computer. And I was already using the computer doing vector design with in engineering. And so it was an easy transition for me to move from engineering design into graphic design and the other types of technologies that go along with that. But again, in the past 30 years of me doing that, a lot has changed. So even though I started out in traditional media, I learned more about digital tools and media as well. And I've done a lot of variety of things with that, just kind of learning about what's available. And I've touched on augmented reality and with my art. So just trying to see what those different technologies are that I can add to my traditional media and digital medias and seeing like where it's going next. And so to answer the question, um, I feel like for myself, even in the time of AI, I'm always curious about what that technology can do. Now, for me, I'm not necessarily the person who wants to use all of the technology, but I do want to be aware of how what that technology can do. I want to know, even if I'm not using AI in my art at all, I don't even want to. I don't even think it has the capability of doing what I want it to do. And even if it did, I would not I wouldn't use it because it can't do what I can do. Does that make sense? Um,
Yes.
so, and at the same time, I want to know how it works because I don't want to make myself obsolete by not being able to function in this new technology space that we're going into. And so for me, it's always about growth and learning and having access to the tools, not to let the tools take over my creativity, but how can it be used in a way that gives me more opportunities, doesn't leave me behind as it's growing because the technology is not going to change. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep getting better.
Yes.
One
I
day
agree.
AI will learn how to draw hands. In fact, there was a somebody sent me a social media post that I was so like I was almost in tears watching the social media post. It was a video, and I sent it to somebody and they were like, that's AI. And I was like, no, it can't be because I don't want it to be that good. I want
Hmm.
the story, I want the video that they were using to share on social media. I want it to feel and to be authentic. I wanted it to be real, but it's not. And so I got tricked. And so, how do I learn how to not be tricked? And how do
Yeah.
I maybe learn how to use those tools to my advantage as an artist, as a maybe even not as being an artist? The tools are there, we're already using them. Me personally, I will never use it in my art. That's not my plan, but I do want to know how it's used and have the ability to use it. So,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I
mhm.
I am curious. We got to get to a question from Victor, but um, have you looked at Sora 2 yet?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no. No, not
When you
yet.
get when you get a chance, take a look.
I know. I've heard some things. I've heard some things.
Okay. Victor says, as a children's book illustrator, how do you decide which books to work with? Is it the story, the author, or the themes that attract you to a project?
Mm. It's usually the story and the themes. And I say that, that there's authors that are at all different stages of their process, of their journey, I'm sorry. And so to me, it doesn't matter if they're starting out or if they're well known. It's about the story. Is the story good? If the story is not quite there, or if it doesn't touch my heart, then it's not the story for me. If I can't see it when I read it, the first few times, then it's probably not the story for me. If I don't feel like I have the ability to render the artwork the way I think that it should be, like I'm not really great at drawing animals. I tried drawing a horse a few years ago and I was like, what is this? I'm not, there's just some things that I would have to work really hard at. I can draw lots of things, I can do lots of things, but can I do it easily enough or in a way that that will be enjoyable for me as an artist too? So I'm evaluating all those different types of things when I'm reading a manuscript and deciding if it's for me. So no, it's not, it doesn't usually matter about the author unless they're problematic for some reason, but most authors are pretty cool people. But for me, it's about the story. Does it touch my heart? Is it something that I can see me doing. Specifically, there's two books that made me cry recently that I did. So this one specifically, A Century for Caroline, um, it touched me because it made me think about my mother. It made me think about the life that she would have lived if she had been 100 years old. It made me think about like her grandchildren and her great grandchildren that the wisdom that she would want to impart on them. So I used her likeness or what I imagined she would look like at 100 to be able to create the story and the illustrations for this book. There's another book that I'm just finishing the illustrations for this month, um, called I'm sorry, it's called We All Serve, and it's about military brats. And that specific book also brought me to tears because it reminded me of when I was as a child, when I was a military brat, and the things that I experienced, the good things, the bad things, exploring new cultures, leaving people behind and having to make new friends. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not. Just some of those experiences that you have as a military child. It just that manuscript touched my heart, and I was like, yes, I can illustrate this. So it really just depends on the story. Is it something that speaks to me? And that's how I choose.
Wow.
Mhm.
And speaking of, we have a question from Queensland, Australia. But before we get to that question, I have to ask you about working with Senator Warnock. What was that experience like, working with him on not one book but two books?
Okay, so typically in traditional publishing, the author and the illustrator don't work together at all. There's a go-between with the art director and the editor, and as the author is working on the manuscript, the illustrator is working with the art director. So, and then the art director and the editor talk. So the editor is working with the author, the illustrator is working with the art director, and then there's an in between. So typically there's not a conversation between the illustrator and the author. However, I did have the opportunity to meet Senator Warnock on Zoom, which was a pleasure. He's a very kind man, and it was just really a nice opportunity to be able to meet him. I was a little starstruck, and yeah, it was great. But it was a really good introduction to learn about what his motivation was for writing the book. I learned about his father and how instrumental his father was in inspiring him to be a good person and to, take the path of not avoiding work, doing the things that needed to be done, taking care of other people when that's necessary, and just being a good person out in the world. So he talked a little bit about that, and also the desire to inspire his own children and other children in the world too. So I tried to bring some of that conversation into the book as well. When I have the opportunity to talk to an author, it actually really helps me a lot because I'm not just thinking about the story at that point. Now I'm getting to know you as an author, and I'm starting to ask questions about your life, your motivation, um, if it's something like this book with Nadia, Getting Us to Grandma's, I didn't talk to her about the story in when we first started, but then we had the opportunity to meet later on. And when she told me about her family and what inspired the story at that time, um, she told me about her brothers and sisters. She told me about her parents, her mother, her father, and how the things that they experienced on this road trip. The fact that she's Jamaican kind of seeped its way into the story, but I wouldn't have gotten that had I only read the manuscript and if I had only worked with the art director with the story.
Right.
Sometimes when you actually have a conversation with an author, it's beneficial. It can be tricky sometimes too, because they might want to put things in there that might not be appropriate for what my vision is as an illustrator. But the fact that Nadia is Jamaican, I feel like that made it a better story because it let me that the conversations that I had with her, it let me put that into the story and make it more true to life. And that's valuable. That's really valuable. So to answer your question, I did get to meet him, and it was a pleasure.
And not only once but twice. You got
And
the
only
chance to
only
work with
one
him.
time. Only one time. Only
You
one
only
time.
talked to him one time, but
Only talked
there are
to him.
two books, right?
There are two books. There are two books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Zachary Sorensen, all the way from Queensland, Warwick, Queensland, Australia. I have to think about all of the places. Australia. He says, "What tools do you use?"
Um, Primarily I use Photoshop. So sometimes I do sketches and I bring them into Photoshop by scanning them in, but most of the time I'm just drawing directly in Photoshop these days. So it's just easier for me to do my sketches and edits and move things around and make them work the way I want to. So I'm directly editing as I'm drawing on the screen. So.
What do you? I know this is probably amateurish for me to ask you this question, but what do you think of Canva?
Oh, I use Canva all the time.
Really?
I do. I do. I use a combination. So with my job, with SCBWI, I use a combination of Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, um, and Premiere Pro also. But I also use Canva a lot. Canva makes it easy for me to get in there, do what I need to do quickly, and um, and it has improved a lot in the past, I don't know, 8 years, however long it's been around, 10 years maybe, I don't know. But it's improved a lot. And I think that they're trying to compete with the likes of Adobe. In some ways, it's definitely not Adobe level with their products. But for people who are just, need to do something quick and easy, get in there. Yeah, I know.
People like me.
Yeah, yeah. Now I will say it's beneficial to have some elements of design, art skills, to be able to understand like what pictures, textures, line, those type of things, what type of fonts work well together. But all of those things are learnable, and Canva makes it where it's really easy and accessible to be able to get in there and get your design work done.
When I was a lot younger, I really did call myself a graphic designer. I had no business calling myself that, but I played around with a lot of different things, a lot of vector software. I can't even think of some of the software packages that I used, but they were just above, a little bit above consumer grade
Mhm.
packages, and I did quite a bit.
You got the job done.
I got the job done. I got the job done. So my producer wants me to ask you this question. Oh boy. This is from Clark Lopez Waterman.
I feel
Can
like I'm
you
about to
help
get set up. You
can,
laugh. Go ahead.
can you help us invite Senator Warnock on Conversations with Tony Mobley? We would love to have him on.
I always, whenever people ask me about Senator Warnock, I don't have connections with him like that. So unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Well, I have reached out,
Okay.
but but it was kind of in the Morehouse members Facebook, and I don't think the question even got to the community because there are um, monitors.
I see.
There are
Okay.
monitors in the Morehouse chat or
Mhm.
membership, and so I don't think it got past the monitors. So,
No,
but we're going to continue to reach out to him.
mhm.
Um, Please talk about initiatives that you were involved in both educational and nonprofits. So
Okay.
some of those nonprofit things that you're doing.
Okay. So SCBWI is a nonprofit organization. That I think is definitely my biggest involvement in nonprofits, and just the length of time that I've been involved with the organization, the different tasks that I've done to support the organization as well. Um, and at a global scale, I think that's a really good example. But also locally in Atlanta, I've been a part of African American for the Arts, which is a grassroots arts organization here in Atlanta, primarily Black creators who mostly work in the fine arts, and they're a support group for those who want to create art and support their art here in Atlanta. And I'm also a part of Bridget, which is an art and technology organization. I sit on the board with that organization, and it's a nonprofit that started up here recently, I think in the past year. And Jordan, I'm sorry, my brain. Jordan Deloche is the organizer for the Bridget, and so I sit on the board for that. So nonprofits is something that I have a passion for. I think they do good work in the world, and um, and they're needed. They have the opportunity to make change that we want to make in a way that it's not dependent on capitalism or um, funding in a capitalistic way. You know what I mean? It's more about the social good, and so I enjoy being a part of things like that.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, so I just want to go over your web page for just a quick minute. There are some things that you have already shared, but I want to. We have a few minutes, so I want to do that. I want to go to that, and so this is the web page,
Mhm.
and you can see, and my producers are probably going crazy because I'm trying to show this slowly, but I wanted to just have our audience see some of the things that you have on here. Um, I'm really kind of liking that one where Senator Warnock and Vice President
Mhm.
Harris are there together, and then you have her by the flag and so on.
Yeah.
Um,
I wish
and
he had been president.
you're not by yourself
I know.
in that. You're not by yourself in that. And so I just want to quickly just go through some of the titles. So this one is Save the Crash Test Dummies, and
Yeah.
that's just $12.99.
Mhm.
And we have Getting Us to Grandma's, which is $19.99. Put Your Shoes On and Get Ready by Senator G. Warnock, $19.99. I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit.
And that's
And I
one I
want to.
forgot about. Our differences make us stronger. Um, Lejeune Montgomery Tabron, she's the CEO of the Kellogg Corporation.
Oh
And
wow.
yes, and so she had a book that she wanted produced last year. We went through the process, and that was released at the beginning of this year as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. The Haunted States of America.
So I have a story that I wrote in that book. It's an anthology of several authors across the United States. And the story that I wrote in that was about the Springer Opera House, which is known to be a haunted opera house in Columbus, Georgia. And I had an experience there as a child when I was a part of the Nutcracker. And so I took that and fictionalized the story and put it in that book.
My producer might have some questions about that because he does professional lighting for opera,
Ah, okay.
and we're in this together.
Yes.
Leon's Lunchbox by Senator Warnock,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna say yes, please. No, I'm not gonna put that information in. But that's Carolyn, I
A century,
believe.
a century for Caroline.
Yes, and then we're back to A Flea for Justice.
Yes. Yep.
And I think that's it. We're going to go back to the webpage, the main webpage. And so I just wanted to share that with those who are watching. Um, I am very thankful for TeMika agreeing to be on with me this evening. I'm very excited. Um, we got two questions left. Try to
Okay.
be real quick with them. Uh, what is next for you, TeMika Grooms?
Hmm. So what's next is I'm gonna put myself on a tour of sorts to talk to people about these books. And I have several books that I've just been working to create. And so now it's the time to tell the world about it. So that's the next thing. I also want to start exploring some of those things that I haven't quite had time to do in the past few years. I want to do some more public art. I want to do some more writing and expanding my portfolio in illustration as well. So just getting back to the creative work of expressing myself and exploring, what the creative part of me has to offer now. So,
And the last question is, you are speaking to the world. What do you want the world to know?
mm, I want the world to know that you're creative too, and that you should explore that. It doesn't matter whether or not you make money from the creative things that you make. Um, I have a daughter who's a fashion person. She loves to design, and I have another daughter who is in performance. She loves to sing. But I feel like there's something in everyone that they can do that's creative, that lets them express the godlike thing that's within them and let that come through. It's not about money. It's not about people even liking your work. It's what do you have to express within yourself. I want you to just remember to be creative because I think it's super important.
Thank you so much. We want to share the website one more time. That is TeMika, theartist.com. Again, TeMika, theartist.com. Thank you so much, TeMika, for being here with me today. And we are so happy that you agreed to be on our show today. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by Claude Lopez Waterman. Our current team is Laura Thompson, Zachary Sorensen, Mickey McAture. Thank you, sir. Thank you, team. Thank you, Mimo Live and Zoom, for making this broadcast possible. We have conversations with real people. Stay tuned for new episodes and great conversations on Conversation with Tony Mobley. I want to thank everyone for the nearly 200 plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. We ask that if you have time, go back and look at some of those conversations. We think that there will be something that will be helpful to you. And again, we want to say thank you, TeMika, for being a part of our conversation today, for doing the work that you do, and for being the person who you are. Next week, Special Education and Exceptional People, Part 2. Please feel free to support Conversation with Tony Mobley by volunteering or donating to keep Conversation with Tony Mobley running. You can donate on our website. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. More interesting conversations with people soon. Take care. God bless. See you soon. Good night.